story of a girl called Susie.
Susie didn't think of herself as very brave, but in this story, she turns out to be very brave indeed.
Susie didn't think of herself as special either, but in this story she turns out to be very special indeed.
And that's the story we're going to tell you today.
Susie lived with her mother in a small village somewhere quite near here.
Susie's mother was very kind, but because she had to go out to work in a biscuit shop every day to earn the money to feed them both, she was often very tired.
And although Susie would help her mother whenever she could, well, when she remembered to,
You see, Susie used to have a father, but not anymore.
when she was still very young, he'd taken part in a balloon race, only somehow had gone wrong with his balloon, and instead of coming down at the end of the race, he'd gone up and up and up and up until nobody's ever seen him again.
Susie often thought of her father and felt very sad, but because she'd been so young when he'd gone, she could hardly remember him anymore.
Susie's mother missed him though. Sometimes, when Susie was in bed, Susie could hear her crying, which made Susie sad all over again.
Susie had no brothers or sisters,
And although she went to school, she didn't really have special friends.
because although her mother worked hard all day, they still didn't have very much money. And most of the children at Susie's school were rather rich, but their parents didn't want them to play with children as poor as Susie.
So for a long time she was very lonely, which worried Susie's mother because she was, as we've said, very kind.
So Susie's mother saved up some money, secretly, until one day, on Susie's birthday, she bought her a very special present.
Susie couldn't think what it could be.
It's a puppy!
Susie was overjoyed.
It's your very own puppy, Susie, and you must take extra special care of him because he's so small. I'll take care of him forever and ever,
Said Susie.
Because, truthfully, he was a very, very small puppy indeed.
What are you going to call him?
Asked her mother.
And Susie thought and thought and thought. She thought of Fido,
No.
And she thought of Fred,
No.
and she thought of Rags,
and Rastus,
and Rover,
and Spot,
and Smudge,
and Prince,
and Patch,
and Dylan,
and Digby,
and Lucky,
and Lupus,
and Bonzo,
and Bones.
and nothing seemed to fit.
Well, he has to have a name.
said her mother.
And Susie said,
I know. What? I'll call him Neville. Neville? Neville. That's not a good name for a puppy, my dear. Well, he's my puppy, and you told me he was, so that's what I'm going to call him.
and so Neville he was called.
It was certainly a very strange name for a very small dog.
From that day on, wherever that Susie went, Neville went. He was so small, she could even take him to school with her in a box and hide him in her desk.
Until that day, he started eating her pencils and her school books, and then they were both sent home.
Neville liked eating.
He liked sleeping too.
The best of all, he liked eating. He ate everything! Shoes and chairs and curtains and cushions.
Although he never tried to eat Susie.
Because she was very gentle with him. When Susie was at home, Neville would sit in her pocket all day, just happy to be with her.
And at night, he would sleep in his box at the foot of her bed.
As the months went by, Neville kept eating and eating and growing and growing.
Until very soon, he had stopped being a small puppy and grew into a small dog.
And Susie's mother brought her home a bigger box for Neville to sleep in.
Here we are, Neville. Here's a lovely new box for you.
Very soon after that, Neville stopped being a small dog.
And grew into a very big dog indeed.
Here we are, Neville. Here's a lovely new box for you.
Until finally, there was no room in that tiny little cottage for Susie, her mother, and Neville all to sleep there.
And Susie's mother said,
Susie. Neville's going to have to sleep. Bart. Oh, I can't have him in the house. There's just no room for him anymore. But Mum, what if it rains? Well, if it rains, he can sleep in the porch. One for you and one for Neville. But Mum, what if it's cold? Well, if it's cold, we can maybe find him something warm to sleep on. Oh, I know. We've got that old cellular blanket he can have.
Actually, what Susie's mother meant to say was cellular blanket. She's quite clever, really, but for some reason, she often got words wrong.
Neville. Neville.
And he did have a magnificent bark.
Oh, it's sometimes rather loud.
Now, Neville. You're going to have to sleep out here tonight. Yes, I know. That's just the way it has to be. Come on now. I'll stay out with you until you fall asleep. A big dog like you can't be afraid of the dark, and you're just under my window, so I won't be far away. Here you are, Neville. Here's a nice cellular blanket for you. Can you have a hot water bottle? You can't have a hot water bottle. Whoever heard of a dog with a hot water bottle? Don't be so silly, Susie. Don't worry, Neville. If it gets cold, I'll bring you a hot water bottle. Now settle down, Neville.
And as they sat together in a backyard and watched the sunset, they saw the moon rise and all the stars come out.
And they did what they often did. They both sat up and looked at the night sky to see if there was any sign of Susie's father, who was probably still up there in his balloon.
But there was nobody in sight.
Nobody.
And Susie started remembering the last time she had seen her father. It was the day he'd set out to take part in the great international balloon race.
It had been a lovely day. The sun had been shining, the fire was blue.
The crowds were cheering.
The perfect day for a great international balloon race.
And here comes Susie's father now.
He was very, very popular with the crowd.
He loved it.
But nobody loved her more than Susie and her mother did.
Goodbye, sweet love. See you soon.
Be careful, Jack. Be careful.
Don't you worry about me. I'll be home before tea time.
Goodbye, Dad.
Goodbye, Susie. You take care of your mother now. Tell her to stop worrying.
Dad,
Right! Here we go then. Goodbye then. Goodbye.
And although she shouted as loud as she could, Susie never got the chance to tell her father how much she loved him.
And now he was somewhere up in his balloon, and maybe she'll never get to see him again to tell him. She sat there on a porch remembering all of this and suddenly felt very sad.
And as it grew really dark, Neville fell asleep, and Susie very gently covered him and tipped him back into the house, so as not to wake him.
As soon as she's gone, Neville was awake and alert.
Now that he was outside all night, Neville turned from first-class watchdog. He watched everything very, very carefully all night.
And if he saw or heard anything at least a bit suspicious, he barked it. He barked at moths.
He barked at bats.
He barked at owls.
He barked at cats.
And if anyone happened to pass by their house late at night from the pub,
early one morning, just as the sun was rising,
then Neville really barked.
me and thinking in the valley below.
And Neville settled back, pleased to think that, thanks to him, the house was perfectly safe and that Susie and her mother could both sleep securely in their beds.
Although, unfortunately, because Neville made so much noise, they didn't get much sleep anyway.
Neville, shut up out there.
And in the mornings, when Susie had to go to school, Neville would walk all the way with her.
Though he didn't go inside with her anymore, he was far too big to hide in a desk.
And in the afternoon, he would come and meet her and they would walk home together.
In the evenings, sometimes, if it was nice weather, they go for walks together or play chases or hide and seek. Only Susie could ever hide from Neville for long.
Ready? Neville. It's your turn then.
Actually, Neville wasn't wasn't very good at hiding either.
Oh, Neville.
Just opposite Susie's little cottage, there stood a great big house. It was very old and the windows were shuttered and the doors were all nailed up because no one lived there anymore.
In fact, nobody had lived there since Susie could remember.
It was a very sinister house. Susie could imagine it was haunted. She'd never go near it after dark.
She could see it from her bedroom window at night, and sometimes she'd imagine she could see people moving about in there.
But then she told herself it was only her imagination because after all, the house was perfectly empty.
But it did have a lovely big overgrown garden, and when it was daylight, Neville and Susie played in this a lot. It was wild and like a jungle.
Neville liked it especially because he could imagine he was a tiger. He'd hide and jump out of Susie and pretend to attack her.
Sometimes Susie would do the same to Neville.
They loved that garden, but they never went near the old house, and they never lingered after dusk.
Come on, you two. Time for supper. Hot buttered toast and lovely asparagus soup. I think she means asparagus.
And sometimes after supper, before they all went to bed, if she wasn't too tired from working in the biscuit shop, Mother would tell them stories that she'd made up herself.
Once upon a time, there was a young shepherd boy who fell in love with a beautiful mermaid.
The stories were sometimes a bit hard to follow.
But nonetheless, Susie and Neville would listen wide-eyed, and if the story got particularly exciting,
And the wild wind whistled round the house and down the chimney pots.
Neville would get rather carried away.
but the stories, like all good stories, always had a happy ending.
And they all lived happily ever after. Now come on, it's bedtime. Oh no, just one more. No more, Susie, it's bedtime. Neville, that's enough. Not even a tiny short story. Susie, I'm very tired. I've got to get up for work in the morning, and you've got to go to school. Now come on, it's bedtime. I wish you didn't have to go to work. Well, I do, or we would eat. Now don't moan about it. You take Neville out into the yard, and I'll turn down your eider down. I think she means eider down. I wish Mum didn't have to work so hard.
Most of all, I wish Dad were here. And as they always did before they went to sleep, Susie and Neville looked up to the night sky to see if we could see her father.
There was no sign of him or his balloon.
Oh, Dad, one day, please come back.
Sometimes, especially at weekends, Susie and Neville would go visiting. The person they liked visiting the most was their nearby neighbour, Mr. Passerby.
Mr. Passerby used to be a famous opera singer.
Or, so he said.
He was known as the Great Passerby, and he sang in all the great opera houses of the world.
He used to tell Susie and Neville of his travels.
I sang in Rome. That's in Italy. I sang in Sydney. That's in Australia. And I sang in Milan. That's in Greece.
I thought Milan was in Italy.
Susie was particularly good at geography.
Aye, there's one there as well. Now here I am working for the council. One day they're cheering me, throwing flowers, crowding around me for my autograph. Now I'm painting white lines down the middle of the road. Nobody wants to know me. Everyone just tries to run me over. How the mighty have fallen, eh?
Why did you stop singing, Mr. Passerby?
I lost my voice, didn't I?
You mean you had a sore throat?
A sore throat? You think I'd have stopped singing just because of a sore throat? No, I meant what I said. I lost my voice. My voice went, didn't it?
Went where?
It was stolen during the night
Stolen?
while I was sleeping in Paris. Someone broke into my room while I was peacefully sleeping and stole my voice.
How do you steal a voice?
Same as you steal anything. They crept in, reached down my throat, and very, very carefully took out my voice without even waking me up. Extremely skillful. Let that be a warning to you, Susie, and to you, Neville. Never sleep with your mouth open. Do you sleep with your mouth open?
I don't know. I'm asleep.
Well, you want to do what I do these days. When I go to bed now, I always sleep with an orange under my chin. Like that. See? Helps to keep my mouth shut in case he tries again.
Who?
The voice stealer.
But if someone stole your voice, how can you still talk?
Ah, 'cause he was clever, wasn't he? He not only stole my real voice, but he left me with this one instead. But this isn't my real voice.
It isn't.
Susie was finding this particular story of Mr. Passerby rather hard to believe.
So was Neville.
You know, this is an old second-hand voice, but I could never have sung with this voice. I could never have filled an opera house with a voice like this. Do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. Listen to that, I ask you. Even the dog hates it.
But Susie was very polite.
It's quite a nice voice, Mr. Passerby.
It's terrible. I hate it.
Where do you think your real voice is?
I don't know. Someone's got it. Somewhere. Whenever there's an opera on the radio or the TV, I always listen, hoping I might recognise it. But it's impossible. I think it's gone forever.
Oh, don't give up hope, Mr. Passerby. We'll keep a lookout for your voice, won't we, Neville?
But Neville secretly thought Mr. Passerby was a bit of a liar.
What sort of dog is that anyway?
He's a pedigree old English wolf boxer.
Why?
I don't think Mr. Passerby believes Susie either.
But one of the good things about visiting Mr. Passerby was that he always had a rather large supply of chocolate cake. And if there was one thing Neville was particularly partial to, it was chocolate cake.
Susie quite liked it too.
So while they both sat there eating chocolate cake, Mr. Passerby would grow sadder and sadder until finally he would sing to them both, as if hoping his voice would come back to him, but it never did.
Early one morning, just as the sun was rising, I heard a maiden singing in the valley below. Oh, don't deceive me, oh, never leave me. How could you treat a poor maiden so?
And although Mr. Passerby tried his best, because after all, it wasn't his fault, was it? If someone had stolen his voice, he did make a dreadful racket.
It was all Susie and Neville could do to stop laughing.
But Susie was very polite.
That was very good, Mr. Passerby.
That's very kind of you to say so, Susie, but it was terrible. Shall I sing to you some more?
No, that's okay. We should be getting home now. Thank you for the cake.
Alright, goodbye then, see you soon.
Goodbye. We'll keep a lookout for your voice.
Aye, that's kind of you, but you'll never find it. Not now.
And Neville started wondering what a voice looked like anyway, and if he'd recognise one even if he saw it.
So he had a quick sniff around just in case.
But he didn't find anything.
Unless you count a half-eaten toffee,
A matchbox,
one navy blue sock,
and a piece of chewed string.
Neville, come on.
One evening, though, something very strange happened.
Susie and Neville were sitting on the porch as usual after supper, watching the sky and thinking their thoughts when suddenly...
Neville, look! Across at the old house, there's this light. I saw this light. Yes, look! Oh, no, it's gone now. But there was one, and then it'd go. Come on, you two, bedtime! Mum, I saw a light. A light? Where? In the old house opposite. One of the window shutters came loose, and I saw this light, like a torch or a candle.
Don't be so silly, Susie. You couldn't have. There's been no one there for years. It's all shuttered up.
I know someone was there.
Oh, you've got too much imagination, my girl. That's your problem. Now, don't be silly, Susie.
Mum, do you think it's possible to steal a voice?
Steal it.
Mr. Passerby said somebody stole his voice while he was sleeping in Portugal, or Paris, or Peru.
I wouldn't believe too much Mr. Passerby tells you. He drinks more than he's ought to be honest with you.
He used to be a famous opera singer.
Well, if he's an opera singer, I'm the Queen of Outer Mongolia.
I know I saw a light.
That night, Neville sat up, especially alert, watching the old house.
And although he never once dozed off, well, maybe once, he saw nothing at all.
The next day after school, Susie and Neville went to play in the old garden as usual. They wanted to look around.
Neville ran about everywhere looking for clues.
Have you found anything, Neville? I certainly saw something last night. Yes, look, it was that window up there in the high tower. Oh well.
But suddenly, Neville saw something.
What What is it, Neville? What have you found?
And Susie saw what it was Neville had discovered. The big front door, which was usually sealed up, had been unsealed. The hinges had been oiled and had a big new shiny lock.
I knew someone was here.
And Susie hurried home to tell her mother.
Evening, Susie. Evening, Neville. Where are you off to in such a hurry?
There's a new lock on the old house. We've just seen it.
Aye, I heard a rumour. I heard there's someone interested in buying it.
Who?
I don't know. Someone rich or mad. Have to be to buy a house that size.
I wonder who it could be. A millionaire?
I've got over 50 rooms at house, plus a cellar and the attic and the tower and the secret passages. It's even got a secret room, so they say. 50 rooms. I used to have a house that size when I was a famous opera singer.
Really?
In fact, I had 4 houses that size. Well, 3 anyway. One in San Francisco, that's in America. One in Turin, that's in Italy. And one in Barcelona, that's in France.
I thought Barcelona was in Spain.
Aye, there's one there as well. See you later. I must drop in for a quick glass of liquid refreshment. I bought some new chocolate cake. Come round sometime.
We will. Bye.
So while Mr. Passerby went off to the pub, Susie Neville hurried home to tell Mother their news. But when they got there, Mother had some very exciting news of her own.
Mother! You must hear my news first. Oh, I've just had a phone call. I've been offered a promotion. A promotion? To manage the biscuit shop. They've offered me the job. Oh, Mum. It's been a lot more money for us. I'm so pleased. I'm going to cook us a special supper as a celebration.
And they were all, quite understandably, so excited that Susie and Neville forgot to tell their discovery of the old house.
After supper, they all sat outside on the porch for a while.
What are you looking at, Susie?
Susie didn't like to tell her mother what she was looking up at to see if she could see her father's balloon, because she knew if she started talking about father, she'd upset her mother, and it had been such a happy evening.
So instead she said,
I wasn't looking at anything really, just the stars.
Oh, there's not many there tonight. It's quite cloudy and I think it might rain.
Don't worry, Neville. If it rains, you can shelter in the porch here.
Now that I'm earning a bit more money, we can maybe buy Neville his own kennel.
There. Did you hear that, Neville?
Your own house, Neville, with your own front door.
And that reminded Susie that she hadn't told her news that someone could be buying the big house.
Oh, really? I wonder who'd want to buy that big house.
That's what we were thinking. I hope it's someone nice.
I think it'll be someone rich. I'm not sure about nice. Now, no more messing around over there and stop being in the garden.
Why?
Well, they're not going to want you and Neville stampeding all over the garden, are they?
Maybe they won't mind.
Well,
We can ask them when we meet them, if they minded.
well, I think they will.
Thunder.
Right, we better get inside.
Neville.
And you as well, Neville, just till the storm passes, okay?
Come on, Neville. Don't stay out there, or you'll be struck by lightning.
Once inside, they settled down in front of the fire. As a special treat, Mother told them a special story whilst the storm raged outside.
Mother told them a really creepy ghost story. Well, fairly creepy. It was enough to make Neville's father stand around a bit, and even Susie felt a little nervous.
Thunder.
And the floorboards creaked, and someone came along the hall, and the footsteps got nearer and nearer, and they held their breath, and the footsteps got nearer and nearer,
Yes.
and then they listened very carefully and hoped that no one would hear them, and then suddenly...
No. No. No.
Well, who can that be this time? Neville!
I don't know, I'll go and see.
Neville! They're just coming! Neville! Shh, shh, shh. Neville! Shh, shh.
I do apologise for startling you, Mrs. Newbury.
Yes?
And this must be young Susie, yes?
Yes?
And I'm afraid I don't know this one's name. What a lovely dog. And naturally suspicious of strangers, quite rightly, quite rightly. Allow me to introduce myself. Constantine Acousticus. I'm to be your new neighbour. I've just purchased the house across the street.
Well, you better come in then.
Thank you. Just for a moment. I called literally just to say hello. charming little cottage.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful. Now. If we're going to get along, we're going to be neighbours, we're going to have to get along, aren't we, old boy? What's your name then?
Neville!
Neville! Well, I'll make a bargain with you, Neville. You don't growl at me, and I won't growl at you, alright?
It's a big house you've got over there.
Oh, yes.
Got a lot of work to do.
Oh, yes.
Moving your family in soon?
No, I have no family, just myself.
That's a big house for one person.
Yes, well, I have lots of little bits and pieces, you see. And then again, I'm looking for a little bit of peace.
And
Well-
quiet.
We won't bother you around here.
Thunder!
There's a thunderstorm.
Yes.
Can I get you something to eat?
No, thank you. As I say, this was just a brief call. Perhaps, though, once I've settled in, you'll accept an invitation to dine with me.
Well, we're not very good socializers, but I'm sure we'd be pleased to.
Splendid.
It's okay. It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got everything you need over there?
Oh, yes.
Tea, coffee, sugar,
Absolutely everything.
all your basic necessities.
Good night, Mrs. Newbury.
Good night, Mr. Aku.
Acousticus.
Oh, Mr. Acousticus.
Good night, young Susie.
Good night.
Good night, Neville.
Can I tea on?
What a charming man! Wasn't he a charming man?
I didn't think so.
No?
I didn't like him at all.
Why not, Susie?
He gave me the creeps, and Neville didn't like him either. Did you, Neville?
Susie, how couldn't you like the man? You barely know him.
How can you decide you do like him? You barely know him either.
Well, I'm not so philanthropical than you two. And I happen to think that Mr. Acousticus is a very nice man. And I'm glad that he's our neighbour, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with him in the future. Now, it's bedtime, it's stopped raining, and you can take Neville out into the yard.
And Susie went to bed wondering why her mother became so cross about Mr. Acousticus. Sometimes, thought Susie, adults behave in the most peculiar way.
And she went to sleep and dreamt that Mr. Acousticus was barking and growling outside her door.
But at least she was asleep, so she didn't hear Mr. Passerby returning from the pub.
But Neville did, and although he growled, he didn't bark. It was very used by now to Mr. Passerby coming home in the middle of the night, singing.
Early one morning, just as the sun was rising, I heard the maiden singing in the valley. Whoops!
Mr. Passerby was even more drunk than usual.
Up here to falling down the valley. Oh, don't deceive me. Oh, never leave me. How could you treat a poor maiden so? Poor maiden? What a rotten way to treat a maiden. Some people just don't know how to treat maidens.
But Susie, who was asleep, saw and heard none of this. Nor did her mother, who was also asleep and also dreaming about Mr. Acousticus.
But Neville saw it all. He saw Mr. Passerby staggering home, and he also saw a dark figure in the shadows who was also watching Mr. Passerby.
Oh, don't deceive me. Oh, never leave me. How could you treat a...
Neville didn't sleep that night at all.
The following morning was Saturday, and Susie didn't have to go to school. She liked Saturdays especially because her mother didn't have to work most Saturdays either, and that meant they could spend the whole day together, the three of them.
But on this particular day, Susie's mother said she had to go into town.
Mum, why?
I told you I'm getting my hair done. It's about time I did.
How long will you be?
Well, I don't know. I'll try and be as quick as I can. But if I've got time, I might buy myself a new dress.
A new dress?
Well, don't act so surprised, Susie. It's not often I treat myself. And anyway, don't be so miserable over the heads of it.
Susie looked at her mother in amazement. She never usually behaved like this.
It was all very strange indeed.
And so Susie and Neville went on a walk on their own.
And because Susie was thinking about her mother and wondering what made her quite so cross about nothing at all, she didn't notice where they were going.
Nor did Neville, but Neville never noticed where they were going much.
And accidentally they wandered into the garden of the old house.
Quite forgetting there is now someone living there.
Come on, Neville, let's play hide and seek. Neville, come on. Neville, why don't you want to play? Neville.
Good morning, young Susie.
Good morning.
Good morning, Neville.
We're very sorry. We forgot this was your garden.
That's quite all right. Do you usually play here?
Well, yes, we used to.
Well, please carry on. Come here and play as much as you like.
Well,
No, you're both very, very welcome. Please come play whenever you want. I urge you. Come and play.
another day.
Susie!
Yes.
If you do come and play here, you and your friend, you must play very, very quietly. Do you understand?
Yes.
You see, I can't be doing with the noise. I have very special hearing. I can hear everything very clearly. For instance, at this very moment, I can hear you both breathing very clearly. So I'll always know when you're in my garden. And if you hold your breath, like you are doing, I'll still be able to hear the sounds of your hearts beating. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. I can even hear Neville's stomach rumbling.
He had a very early breakfast.
Just remember, very, very quietly. There's one thing I cannot stand. It's noisy girls with noisy dogs.
Neville, listen. None of the birds are singing.
And Susie and Neville ran out of that garden just as fast as they could.
Once they got their breath back, they decided to visit their friend, Mr. Passerby.
Not just because they were secretly hoping he might have some chocolate cake to offer them,
Nevertheless, that did cross Neville's mind because after all, he had had an early breakfast.
but when they arrived at Mr. Passerby's,
Mr. Passerby, Mr. Passerby, are you home? Mr. Passerby!
What do you want?
Good morning, Mr. Passerby.
I can't talk to you today. I lost my voice.
What?
I lost my voice.
What's the matter? Have you lost your voice?
She said I have.
How did you lose it?
In the night, when I woke up, it was gone.
In the what?
Night. In the night.
In the night. You lost it in the night.
Someone stole it.
Stole it? Who stole it?
Someone did.
But Mr. Passerby, no one could really have stolen your voice. Not really. You've probably just got a cold. That's all.
I'm telling you, it was stolen. How am I going to get it back?
You'll get it back in a day or two, I'm sure. Don't worry. Have you got any throat sweets?
No, I don't need any throat sweets. I need someone to find my voice.
Don't worry. We'll go and buy you some throat sweets. Keep warm. Good old Mr. Passerby. Even when he's ill, he's still making up stories. I don't think there'll be any chocolate cake for us today. Come on, let's go see if we can buy some throat sweets. Let's go home and get some money.
But when they got there, just about they were going into the cottage, they heard a strange sound coming from across the street, coming from the old house.
Oh, don't deceive me.
Neville, that's Mr. Passerby.
Oh, never leave me.
It can't be. We've only just left him at home, and anyway, he couldn't talk.
How could you take a poor maiden so? Baby!
Well, it's his voice. It's certainly his voice. Neville, it's his voice. Mr. Acousticus has stolen Mr. Passerby's voice. Mum, you'll never guess what's happened.
There you are, Susie. I want you to take these across the road.
Across the road? Why?
I've taken these from the cupboard to give to Mr. Acousticus as a housewarming present.
Mum, I can't go there.
Why not?
I just can't.
Susie, you'll do as I say.
Mum, please.
Susie?
Mum, Mr. Acousticus has stolen Mr. Passerby's voice, you see?
Mr. Acousticus's voice.
No, Mr. Passerby's.
Mr. Passerby's voice.
Yes.
To Mr. Acousticus.
Yes.
Well, maybe Mr. Passer-Passerby was visiting Mr. Acousticus.
He's not! Mr. Passerby is at home. He's got a sore throat. Mr. Acousticus stole his voice the night, and now Mr. Acousticus has got Mr. Passerby's voice!
Susie, I've never heard so much nonsense my whole life.
I can't go there.
Well, Susie, I will go myself. I don't know what's come over you this morning. You can go into the kitchen and tidy up, and you can take Neville with you.
Mum, you can't go either.
Susie, I don't want to hear another word.
And before Susie could say anything, Mother had crossed the road and gone through the gates into the garden of the old house.
And they saw Mr. Acousticus letting her through the front door.
And they saw the door close behind her.
Neville, what are we going to do?
And they both waited what seemed like hours and hours and hours, but probably it was only minutes and minutes and minutes.
And then, to their joy, the front door of the old house opened and out came Mother, smiling at Mr. Acousticus.
And more important, still speaking.
Thank you, dear lady.
No, thank you, Mr. Acousticus.
Goodbye, Mrs. Newbury.
Oh, you're such a wicked flatterer.
Mum, I'm still really cross at you two. What have you been doing? Have you did the kitchen? Have you tidied up? No, we were just gonna...
Well, do it this minute, because when I get back, I've got a lot of baking to do.
Baking.
Yes, I've invited Mr. Acousticus for dinner.
Here. With us.
Yes, Susie.
Mum, he can't come here.
Well, he's coming. I've already issued the invitation, and he's coming.
Well, I'm not having supper with him.
Well, maybe it's better that you don't. You can go to bed without any supper. And the same goes for you too, Neville. Now come on, look lively. Come on.
But Mum!
Come on,
Susie! Mum!
But there was nothing Susie could say. Her mother was far too excited.
And Neville sat on the porch and wondered what they could do, because he felt somehow that Susie, her mother and he were in some sort of danger, but he didn't know what. It was something to do with Mr. Acousticus though, he was sure of it.
And as he sat there, he saw Mr. Acousticus come out of his big house, stand staring and smiling at their cottage, just the way he stared and smiled at Mr. Passerby the night before.
And Neville thought he should do something to warn Susie and her mother, so as Mr. Acousticus continued to stand there, Neville started to bark.
Now I warned you, didn't I?
Now that's better. What was all that barking about just now? Well, what is it? Tell me. Tell me.
But try as he might, there was nothing Neville could do to warn her.
Just as Susie was about to give up and go back and help her mother, from somewhere across the road, Susie and Neville heard the most chilling sound they'd ever heard in their lives.
Neville, that's you. That's your bark. Mr. Acousticus has stolen your bark. Oh, don't worry, Neville. We'll get your bark back, and we'll get Mr. Passerby's voice back too. And we'll get the bird to sing again. Don't worry, somehow we will.
And how did they do all that?
We'll tell you in a few minutes.
See you soon!
See you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a 10-minute interval.
This is the rest of the story of Susie and Neville and how they defeated Mr. Acousticus. For the rest of that day, Susie helped her mother get ready for the supper that Susie wasn't going to eat.
Because Susie knew that her mother was as good as her word, and once she said something, she generally meant it.
Not that Susie minded though. She didn't want to sit down with a meal with Mr. Acousticus, not at all.
Neville certainly didn't, but he wouldn't have minded the meal.
In fact, if Neville had been such a nice, well-brought-up dog, not to mention a pedigree Old English wolf boxer, then he probably went right over there and bitten Mr. Acousticus in the foot.
But being a pedigree Old English wolf boxer as he was, he could never do that sort of thing, not even to someone like Mr. Acousticus.
So instead he sat on the porch very unhappily.
He couldn't bark at anything now.
He couldn't bark at moths.
He couldn't bark at bats.
He couldn't bark at owls.
And worst of all, he couldn't even bark at cats.
And if anyone happened to pass by their house, he couldn't bark at them either.
Tom made Neville feel very depressed.
When Susie was finished helping her mother prepare for the supper, she came and sat with Neville on the porch.
Neville, I think I've got a plan. Listen. When Mr. Acousticus arrives, we'll have to pretend to go to bed. Then, when he and Mum start supper, we can creep across to the old house and see if we can get in through a window or something. How does that sound? Yes, I know it's frightening. I don't want to go either. I'm frightened too, but it's the only way, Neville. You're a pedigree, Old English wolf boxer. They're the bravest dogs that are. You can't frighten an Old English wolf boxer. It's impossible. Susie's mother had been to the hairdresser's and bought herself a new dress. She was obviously very keen to impress Mr. Acousticus.
But Susie couldn't understand why.
Her mother wasn't as cross on them both as she had been. After all, Susie had helped a lot with the supper.
But she was still a little bit angry.
He'll be here soon. Now, since you've been very helpful, I'm going to allow you and Neville to come and have supper with me and Mr. Acousticus.
No, thank you, Mum.
No?
We don't want any supper, do we, Neville?
You don't want supper?
No.
You don't want thick vegetable soup?
No.
Or chicken, peas or potatoes?
No.
Or lemon meringue pie?
No.
And ice cream?
No, we don't, Neville, do we? We just want to go to bed early. Don't we, Neville? Don't we, Neville?
Well, you can suit yourselves. Me and Mr. Acousticus will eat it all ourselves.
I wish you weren't eating with him either.
Susie, I don't know what you've got against the poor man.
I've told you! Mr. Acousticus stole Mr. Passerby's voice, and now he's stolen Neville's bark!
Well, Mr. Passerby hasn't probably got the cold and, well... Susie?
Listen! The birds have stopped singing in the garden of the old house!
Well, it's night time, Susie. They're sleeping.
Oh, why won't you believe me?
Because you're making this up. For some extraordinary reason, you've took a disliking to Mr. Acousticus, and for the life of me, I don't know why. I think he's a charming, kind, sophisticated man, and I think he's very, very attractive.
Mum, what about Dad?
Susie, your father's gone. He went up in that stupid balloon, and he's never coming back down again. You're going to have to face it.
He might, one day.
He won't. I'm sorry. He's never coming back. And if someone like Mr. Acousticus wants to come and see me, then who am I to argue? I'm only human, Susie. And I think he's very, very nice.
Dear ladies.
Mr. Acousticus.
Dear lady, you're looking a perfect picture. Good morning, Susie. Or should I say evening?
Evening.
Good evening, Neville. Not going to say hello then, aren't we?
Well, he's not barking at you. That's a good thing, I think.
No, he's certainly not barking anymore. You've learned not to bark, haven't you, boy?
Don't you dare touch him!
Really? Oh, I'm really sorry. Oh, I've told you not to shout at people. Now get over there, little Joyce.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'll help you.
You know, that's also very bad for you, Susie.
You know, I knew a girl once. She shouted so loudly, she lost her voice altogether. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
Now, Susie, you be told. Now, Mr. Acousticus, would you like to come inside and have a glass of my homemade dandelion wine?
Homemade dandelion. Yum, yum, yum.
I've never been so embarrassed my whole life. You're like a pair of hooligans.
Susie and Neville sat on the porch and tried to pluck up courage to face the adventure ahead.
And as they sat there, Susie dozed off a little. Maybe she dreamt it, or maybe she didn't, or maybe it really happened. We shall never know. But she thought she saw her father float past the moon, still in his balloon, and seemed to call to her.
Susie! Susie!
Dad?
Susie!
Dad, we need you.
You have to be very brave, Susie. Very brave.
I'll try, Dad. I'll try.
There's great danger ahead, so be careful. Both of you, do you hear?
I'll be careful.
You can't be afraid, Susie. You mustn't be afraid.
No, all right. I'll try my best.
Remember, Susie, wherever you are, I'll be near. I'll be watching you. Don't be afraid.
Dad.
Don't be afraid.
Dad.
Baloo.
Dad.
And her father seemed to float away from her, as if he were carried away on the night wind.
Susie, Neville, time for bed. Oh, good gracious, girl, are you falling asleep out here?
No, I was...
Susie, it's time for bed.
I saw Dad.
Oh, Susie, darling, you didn't see Dad. You were just dreaming. It's all right.
No, I did. He was...
Susie, come on. It's bedtime. It's all right.
No, I'll be down in about half an hour, Neville. Now you keep awake, all right? And Neville sat all alone, thinking of perhaps on the whole that Susie's idea wasn't good after all, and they better try not get into Mr. Acousticus's house opposite, because after all, did he really need his bark? I mean, did he really need it? There's quite a lot of animals that got along very nicely without bark, didn't they? Mice for one, and beavers, and voles, and then he found himself dozing off but stopped himself just in time.
And in order to tell them to stay awake, Neville decided to think of a few other animals that didn't need a bark. Cows didn't.
And pigs didn't.
And fish certainly didn't.
And cats didn't.
And bats didn't.
And sheep didn't.
And sheep didn't.
And sheep didn't.
And sheep didn't.
And with all those sheep, Neville started nodding off again.
So he decided perhaps the best thing to do was walk about.
But after a time, this got rather boring. But he didn't dare to go far away in case Susie came out.
Then he had a very good idea.
Whilst he was waiting, he would dig up one of the bones that he buried and have it snapped before they went on their adventure.
Now the only trouble with Neville is, although he was a first-rate digger and an even better bone burier, well, all pedigree Old English wolf foxes are, of course, he hadn't the best memory when it came to digging them up again.
So he sniffed over here.
And he sniffed over there.
And he dug over here.
And he dug over here.
And there.
And there.
And there.
Until finally, he dug up the whole front garden and was absolutely exhausted.
But then, only then it came to him. Of course, they weren't buried round the front. They were buried round the back.
Ah well, too late now.
Just then, Susie came out very quietly.
Neville, what have you done? You've dug up all the lawn, and the rose bushes, and the herbaceous borders. Mum's going to be furious, you mad dog. Come on then, are you ready?
to do with them every word.
Oh, you're a wicked flatterer. Would you like another glass of my dandy wine?
Oh, of course, dear lady.
They're just about to start supper. We have to be quick.
It was a very dark night. No moon, just the stars.
And Susie Neville crept through Mr. Christopher's garden, up the garden path until they reached the big front door. Well, there's no point pushing Neville. It'll be locked.
But Neville pushed the front door anyway, and to their surprise, the big wooden door swung open.
It didn't creak as a door might do. Instead, it made this strange sound.
And so they were to discover that nothing in Mr. Acousticus's house sounded quite as it should do.
Carefully, they stepped through the dark hallway. Shh! We have to be very quiet. Where do we go now, do you think?
And so began Susie and Neville's search of the house. It was huge, with dozens of rooms, as Mr. Passerby had told them.
Not to mention corridors
And hallways.
and secret passages.
It was possible to get very, very lost, but first to find where Mr. Acousticus had hidden Neville's bird.
And Mr. Passerby's voice.
And the bird song.
But we also need to be rather quiet. Shh. Honk! What a huge room. Do you see anything, Neville? What's this? It looks like a musical box. What an extraordinary house. Nothing is as it seems, is it? There seems to be
Nothing.
nothing here. There doesn't seem to be any way out. Just the windows, and they're boarded up. And the fireplace. There doesn't seem to be any way out. Unless we climb up the chimney. But I don't think that would. Neville, look! There seems to be an iron ladder here. What do you think? Oh, where are we? It's full of bottles. Bottles of wine. I think we're in Mr. Acousticus's wine cellar. He must drink an awful lot. There's hundreds of bottles. The trouble is, I don't see it really out. There must be. Have a look, Neville. Just racks and racks of bottles. What's this then, Neville? Is this the way out? But it's just a solid wall of bottles. Unless they move in some way. There! You were right! Well found, Neville. This is the only way out. What a mess! There's piles of things covered in dust. Nobody's been down here in years and years. I don't think we'll find anything here. Oh look! A recorder! I start trying to play one of these. I don't like this house at all. Where to now, Neville? What have you found, Neville? Is this way out? This must be part of the kitchen. It doesn't look to have been used very much lately either. Nothing very interesting here. Old mango, a sink,
mops and brooms. This door must lead to the kitchen. Yes, I can see the stove through here. What's this then, Neville? Is this a door? It looks like a lift. It shucks, it's open. See, this is what we've been searching for. Aircraft, alarms, amusement arcades, anti-dank card, guns, applause. Neville! Babies, bells, bicycles, birds. Neville, don't do that. Hey, look right here. Singers. This could be where Mr. Passerby's voice is. There's dozens of singers. How are we ever going to find Mr. Passerby's voice?
Hello, 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 old boy.
Hello, old boy.
Right back.
Hello, old boy.
Put it back. Okay, that's it. Come on, no more. If he catches us, we've had it. Now, you go and try and find your bark, and I'll look for Mr. Passerby's voice. Look under B for barks. But it isn't here.
I think you'll find Mr. Passerby filed under N for nuisance, Susie.
Mr. Acousticus? Mr. Acousticus?
Same place where you'll soon have to put your voice, Susie, along with all the other rowdy and noisy little people, where you belong.
Mr. Acousticus! Mr. Acousticus!
Enjoying our little tour of my house, are we? And I see Neville has his bark again. We'll soon have that back soon, don't you worry. Come here, boy, give us your bark then. Come on, give us it here. Come on.
Neville, don't give him your bark, don't give him whatever you do, don't give him your bark!
I might as well have your voice too, Susie, while I'm about it. Then we'll have perfect peace and quiet. No? Oh, I'm sure I won't have to wait for very long, Susie, knowing you. I doubt you'll be able to keep quiet for that long. Now, how about we tidy up this place? Get all the barks and all the noises and put them back where they belong.
Pick up.
Whoop. Almost got you. Now, come on, tidy up this place. What the fuck, you stupid animal! That's the burglar alarm!
sheep to return to their cottage.
But the cottage was strangely quiet.
Mom? Mom! 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 Are you alright? Oh no, Mom!
I believe it's this you're looking for, Susie.
Oh, Mr. Acousticus, you're such a wicked flatterer.
Give back my mother's voice! You give it back, girl!
Oh, you what?
Oh! No, I can't speak! Mother, I can't!
And just when all seemed lost,
Just when it all seemed that there was nothing Susie could do,
or her mother could do,
or Neville could do,
like a bolt from the blue,
like a prayer from heaven,
like a knight in shining armor,
like the US 5th Cavalry.
down came Father's
Sorry, beg your pardon. Hello, old girl. Hello, sweet dear. Who's that chap I just hit? Is he alright?
Oh, Dad, it's a long story. We'll tell you later. Where have you been?
Sorry we're so late. Fought with the balloon controls. Luckily we had a huge supply of corned beef. Been living in that and rainwater. It's good to see you both. How are you, dear? You're unnaturally quiet.
Oh no! Mum's voice! He's still got Mum's voice! Oh, Neville! Well done. Look, Dad, I'll show you. Jack, we've had a terrible time since you went away!
Very good. That's awfully good.
Jack!
How did you? I didn't know how you did that at all. I mean, how long are you rehearsing this trick? Terrific. It sounded exactly like you were coming from this box.
No, Dad! This is terrible! You stole it!
But try as they might, they didn't really get Susie's mother to believe the story.
Come on now. Just because I've been a balloon all this time, it doesn't make me a balloonatic. Oh, dear. Let's get out of here. You coming for this box? I don't understand.
Jack!
Oh, I missed you too, dear. I missed you too, dear. Come here.
Susie and Neville couldn't complain, really. Father was back, and that was the main thing. And Mother was terribly happy too, of course.
As for Mr. Acousticus, well, he wasn't seen round those parts anymore. He moved away and his house stayed empty again forever.
It seemed that when Susie and Neville released all those noises from the cabinet, it made the place so noisy that Mr. Acousticus couldn't bear to stay there a minute longer.
And so Susie and Neville took to play in the old garden again.
And everything got back to normal.
A lot of the voices that did manage to escape managed to find themselves a home to their rightful owners. People that haven't spoken for weeks, dogs who haven't barked, cows that haven't moved, rats that haven't rolled, babies that hadn't cried, babies that haven't sung, woke up one morning to find that their voices have returned to them.
Early one morning, the sun was rising. Alright, Susie. Alright, Neville. I got my voice back. Ta! I heard a maiden singing in the valley below.
Though Susie suspected that certain people actually got voices back that had never really belonged to them in the first place.
And so, as happens in best of the stories,
And as we hope it will happen in your lives too,
they all lived happily
ever after.
Oh, never leave me. How could